So, I've been a fan of the Total War games for a while now. The first game in the series I played was Medieval 2, which I loved, and I adored Empire as a teen. Warhammer 2 is my go-to these days, and it was actually the first time that I picked up an entry in the series in quite some time. I was so badly burned off Rome 2 that I stopped caring about the series and migrated more towards the medieval incest and up Crusader Kings. Apart from the Warhammer games, I've missed pretty much all of the newer ones, but I will admit, my interest was piqued when I heard that they were going to do a remaster of Rome Total War, the game that really started it all. See, my original intention was to review the original Rome Total War in preparation for the remaster, but the fucking thing won't record because of course it won't, so I thought, to hell with it. The remaster is half price and I've heard decent things, so I cautiously picked it up. Creative Assembly have a bad track record with ruining Rome, so I was more than a little worried that they'd somehow screw this one up as well. So is Total War Rome Remastered a worthy reinterpretation of the classic? Or is it a shameless rehash? Well, let's find out. Hey, I'm Heather, and welcome to Retry Retro, the show where I talk about remakes and significant remasters of old games and see how they hold up. Please be sure to like, share, comment and subscribe if you like the video. Rome Total War is a grand strategy game and real-time tactics game developed by Creative Assembly and published by Activision in 2004. Rome was the third installment in the Total War series, following on from 2000's Shogun and 2003's Medieval. Rome was the first in the series to feature fully 3D battles, and a new engine, and it very much defined the look of the series going forward. Rome was met with critical acclaim upon release, and has since went on to sell over 1 million copies and is regarded by many as one of, if not the best strategy game ever made. See, I first got into PC gaming around 2005, and Rome was one of those almost legendary games that everyone spoke about all the time. I was a big fan of strategy games like Red Alert 2 and Age of Empires 2, so Rome seemed like it was totally my jam. But for some reason, I didn't end up playing it until about 2011, when I picked it up in a Total War pack during a Steam sale. It was never my favourite Total War game growing up, that honour would go to Shogun 2, as it was more my time period, but I did have a lot of fun with Rome, just not as much fun as other folk who played it upon release. But still, I can understand why Rome has the cultural impact that it has, and the significance of it, and even going back to play it for this video, I had a lot of fun with it, while it was working and didn't crash, I mean. Rome currently sits at 92% on Metacritic, far higher than its broken shit show of a sequel, but that's a video for another day. Rome Total War makes a great first impression, with this main menu music with battles in the background and this eerie background music. Fiddle with the options, fix the resolution because you're not a cretin, and then proceed to the Imperial campaign, where you can choose to play as one of 3 main Roman factions. The Julii in the north who have a bit of a Gaul problem, the Scipii in the middle who have nightmares of elephants, and the Brutii in the middle who are giving the Balkans some funny looks. These 3 factions don't really play that differently apart from a few unit changes and some buffs, but it's nice to have a choice. Once you pick your poison, you're given a great introductory cutscene, and then you're dropped into the world map so you can start your journey of becoming the Emperor of Rome in the 3rd century BC. Rome is a game of 2 halves. The turn-based strategy layer where you manage your empire, strike deals, build settlements, recruit units, and the real-time tactics layer where you fight these massive battles against enemies. What makes Rome and most other Total War games so great is that they have such a naturalistic sense of pacing. You're never playing one of these halves for too long. Battles can range anywhere between 2 minutes to 45 minutes, and your time on the strategic map is never particularly dull. There's always a number of stops and flows that need managed, whether that's a surprise attack by another faction, settlements rioting, and other stuff that pops up from time to time. This means that you're never really doing the same thing for too long, and it stops these things getting repetitive. As I mentioned before, you only start with 3 Roman factions at the beginning, with other factions being unlocked as you destroy them and finish the campaign. Rome is a unique experience because there are 3 different factions, each of them vying for favour in the Senate. Being kind to the Senate and doing their pointless errands will give you their favour, meaning the faction leaders are appointed to higher positions, and failure to do their menial tasks will more than likely result in you being declared persona non grata and being attacked by the 2 other factions. Add some nice tension to things. While you might be just one turn away from finally telling the Gauls to fuck off at the end of a gladius, the Senate might want you to pick them up a packet of crisps from Carthage for the 20th time. This does become tiresome towards the mid-game though, but of course, Rome's party piece isn't its strategic layer, it's the tactical layer. All of Rome Total War's combat, apart from the naval thank fuck, takes place in these pitched battles where you face up against one of the AI opponents. These are visually impressive, of course. Even today, I never really get tired of watching my heavy cavalry just pummel the shit out of these little dudes as they go flying in the air, or watching a volley of arrows crash into enemy units as they rout. It's all very cathartic. You'll need to manage your unit's stamina because making them run everywhere causes them to be worse off in battles, and you'll also need to manage their morale, because when morale gets low, you'll completely lose control over your units, causing them to rout and flee the battlefield, making them easy prey for enemy cavalry. And having your general die in the middle of battle can be a complete catastrophe that causes everyone to flee. Combat works in a more or less rock, paper, scissors system. It basically just requires some common sense and thought. Your horses are allergic to large pointy sticks, so don't make them charge into row spears. Spears aren't very good against swords for some reason. Sword wielding dudes have a terrible fear of horses, and archers are the purest example of Tau fire warriors, and that they'll basically just disintegrate if someone even points a sword at them. Learning how to utilise and manoeuvre these troops is critical to success in Rome, and clever use of tactics can lead to you winning what should be unwinnable battles, much like John Major, and being a fuckwit and charging your general into heavy spearmen can lead to you losing an unlosable battle, much like Neil Kinnock. So yeah, Rome Total War is great, play it if you haven't. The original stands up as long as it's working and not pissing the bed. This has the Heather seal of approval, modern classic. But yeah, there are some things that holding it back from the quality of life perspective that might put some new players off, mainly the stability. For some reason I still get lag on this small battle in a 17-year-old game. Let's see if the remaster fixes any of that. So when I heard they were going to release Rome Total War with some nicer graphics and stability, I thought, yeah, why not I guess. It's a game that everyone remembers fondly, and re-releasing the same thing over and over again is kind of the trendy thing right now. I'm surprised it took them this long actually. I mostly avoided trailers and reviews because you burnt me once on that and I'll never fall for that shit again. Seriously, Rome 2 was the most disappointing thing since Keir Starmer, and I will curse it with my dying breath. So when I saw it was discounted and my friends had some kind words for it, I decided to give it a bash. Now, I should probably talk about the backlash to the game. It had the same kind of backlash that basically every Total War game since Shogun 2 has had. It's the worst thing ever, it killed my children and voted for Thatcher, all the rest. Really, much of the backlash seems to boil down to the fact that people can't tell the difference between a remake and a remaster. Like, this exact same thing happened with Dark Souls Remaster. I don't quite understand how people want remasters to be these entirely new modern games. Like, if you picked up Fight Club Remastered on Blu-ray, if it was actually a remake, you'd be pissed. But apparently that's what people want from their games. Fuck knows, man. Like, this language has been standard in film for decades now. Hashtag gamers need to get over it. So yeah, if you didn't pick up on the implication there, Rome Remastered is more or less a warts and all re-release of the original, which is honestly all I ever wanted from this game. So if you just need to hear a recommendation or not, I recommend Rome Remastered because it's Rome Total War, but it actually functions on modern PCs. But of course, there is more to it. So let's get down to the details. So Rome Remastered's most obvious change is the graphical fidelity. 17 years have passed, so you'd hope things are better now, and they are. Thankfully they didn't do too much to change the art style of the game. They more just modernised and upgraded stuff. This can lead to some weird things, like how a lot of these settlements look really barren, and it obviously doesn't hold up to Warhammer 2 or whatever, but I still think the graphics are nice. It's still just as satisfying as ever to watch a volley of flaming arrows go off into the enemy ranks. Or did you see a barrage of heavy onager fire? The world map has seen a pretty substantial upgrade, with it actually looking really bright and colourful, and I love that. You have the option to make the colours less saturated if you have nostalgia for the Xbox 360 generation and hate fun. It looks a damn sight better than Rome 2 at any rate. I didn't know the fields of Italy were this fucking brown, but okay, fair enough. Character models have seen some nice upgrades too. They still stand around like a bunch of spare pricks when nothing's happening, but they're varied enough that they still look very impressive when you watch them march. One thing that I love that someone pointed out to me is that the ethnic makeup of units will depend on where they were recruited. So if you recruit some spearmen from North Africa, they'll have darker skin than those you recruited in Gaul or wherever. Even more impressively is that if you have a unit of Northern European spearmen and reinforce them in North Africa, you'll actually have a varied ethnic makeup in that unit. This is really cool, and I think that may be the first in the series. Either way, I really hope they continue this because that's very cool and I'm a huge fan. The battles themselves are more or less just as you remember them being, except now they're even more impressive, and it never gets old watching onager fire just crash into enemy units. I love it so much. It doesn't quite have the spectacle of Shogun 2's bloody archer fire or Warhammer 2's rattling guns, but I don't mind that so much. It's nice to have some basic gameplay every now and then. Battles more or less play exactly as before, except now the enemy AI is less stupid. Slightly. They'll still do some really dumb stuff like just kinda stand there while your archers and artillery turn their men into mincemeat, or attack units they have no chance of winning, but there were fewer occurrences of the enemy AI just being blitheringly stupid. There have been a lot of quality of life changes in battles too. First off is the fact that you can now control the camera with like a normal person. WASD is the default now, as it should have been back in 2004. And you can now look around the battlefield by holding the mouse wheel. You can also zoom in and out farther than before, even on the campaign map, so that's nice. Oh, and the tactical map is here because reasons, I guess. It's just as useless as it ever was. Merchants have been added to the campaign map and they're pretty cool, but they don't really have much of substance, but they're nice to have, I guess. Diplomacy also got an overhaul, but as far as I can see, it still doesn't stop the enemy from picking stupid suicidal fights they can't win. You quite often get demands from factions much smaller than you and halfway across the map threatening to attack if you don't give them a 10 or whatever. It's dumb, but that's part of the Total War charm at this point. Probably my favourite inclusion is the ability to play as literally any of the factions, including the 16 that weren't accessible in the original, right from the start. So if you want to jump straight into conquering Rome in the back of Hannibal's elephants, you can do just that. But there are problems with the remaster. The main problem that I see a lot of people complaining about is the UI. Now, don't get me wrong, Total War has a difficult relationship with UI scaling. The font in Shogun 2 is so small that it's basically illegible at times, and on the flip side, Rome 2, yes, I promise I'll shut up about Rome 2 soon, it has such a massive, bulky and hideous UI that took up half the screen real estate. Rome Remastered has the former problem. In battles it's fine, I can see everything and it's all clear and well presented. On the strategy layer though, so you know how in the original Rome, if you got a marriage offer or some other important event, they would appear right up on your screen in like a big scroll and you literally could not miss it? Well, that's all gone. Now we have this notification tabs, which might be nicer for keeping things clean, but it also means it's easy to not notice when you have an important notification. Like, there were times when I wouldn't even realise that my citizens were rioting until the end of the turn, and that's just not okay. What's even worse is the menu for building and recruiting. It's that. Yeah, that's literally all you have to go off. I understand that they probably wanted most of the attention to be in the campaign map, but it's went way too far in the opposite direction here. As before, you can click on units and buildings to learn more about them and all of that, and that information is here, it's just in a similarly tiny tab. This is a real shame because it makes reading these things a bitch and a hassle, and I miss when you'd click on a building's preview and you'd get this nice big picture. This is a really weird change and something I hope either gets patched out or fixed by modders. That said, it's not a deal breaker. What can be a deal breaker though at times is the pathfinding in battles. Now, this isn't just the remaster's fault, it was a big problem in the original, but it blows my mind how 17 years later getting units to disengage from combat or even just turn around when out of combat can be so frustrating. Now, I get that pathfinding was one of the warts from the original Rome, but when they said they were going to add AI fixes, this is honestly what I thought they would fix first. But the nice thing is, a lot of these changes can be toggled on or off in the menu. Upon starting the game, you get to choose if you want the new AI, merchants, etc. into the game. This means that the game is actually very customizable. So if you want as close to the original Rome experience as possible, just with less brain-dead AI, that's totally something you can do. And I'm a really big fan of this. I love seeing these options in games. Much like XCOM 2's options that let you change the length of the campaign or whatever. More player choice is always fine by me. So is Rome Remastered worth it? Oh fuck yeah, absolutely, buy it now. I think this is going to be my go-to way to experience Rome for the time being. I don't think it's quite going to overtake Warhammer 2 as my favourite game, at least not until the ads Skaven. But that said, I can see myself having a lot of fun with it for quite some time. I actually decided to start a little Carthage campaign mostly off camera, and I really enjoyed my time with it. I got to attack Rome with War Elephants, so that's just a great time all around. There's a real sense of achievement that comes with taking these massive settlements and wiping out these glorious factions that have been built up as nigh unstoppable. And that's really what made Rome Total War so great, and will keep it great forever. The remaster also comes with the original version of Rome, and also remastered versions of Barbarian Assault and the Alexander expansion. I've never actually played these before, so if you want me to give them a shot, tell me in the comments below. The backlash to Rome Remastered is a genuine shame because you can tell the people involved in making this genuinely loved the original Rome and wanted to give us a modern update of it. And I for one am genuinely thrilled that they decided to give it a shot. I hope we get a Medieval 2 remastered at some point in the future as well. Obviously Warhammer 3 is releasing later this year and that'll be a bop I'm sure. Honestly, with a sequel to my favourite Total War game and an enhanced version of the one that started it all, we've kind of been spoiled this year as Total War fans, and I personally couldn't be happier. Hey, thanks for watching. Got any other remakes or remasters you want me to take a look at? Tell me in the comments below. Also, be sure to check out my other series, Retro Reloads, where I take a look at old games and see if they're worth playing today. Be sure to follow me on Twitch and Twitter at BantsFerdinand, join my Discord, and of course like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Hey, I'm Heather, and I'll catch you later.